What's happening? Benton here, going live early. Certainly not my normal time slot. I'm out here on Mountain Time, and trying to get out of the truck stop here. Sure, we're not taking anybody's hood off. A bit tight here. Yeah, I think we got it. Yeah, we made it. Thanks for joining me. Signal may be intermittent, so please be aware of that. Where am I? I-40, Tucumcari, New Mexico. Just about got us blocked in coming this way. Way this truck is set up, normally it'll go 71 miles an hour, but our it rewards you if you get good fuel economy, but then it's I'm at a negative 3 miles per hour penalty, so I think I can only go 68. This bullshit. I hate some of these truck stops, man. They got it down to one-way traffic coming in and out of here. Give them a little air horn. Get out of the way, fellas. Bear with me if you would. Once we get out on the big road, be able to talk a little more freely. Fuel stop in 2 hours, approximately. Where's that going to be? Moriarty, New Mexico. That was the last name of the main character in my favorite book, my favorite novel, On the Road by Jack Kerouac. Semi-autobiographical. That was the character that was him, you know, Kerouac, in On the Road, Dean Moriarty. I always wondered if that was named after Moriarty, New Mexico. Presumably, those were the Beats or the Beatnik. What later became, you know, the Beatniks. But yeah, the Beats presumably would have been traveling Highway 66, Route 66, which ran through here. I see. Shout out to the chat. Let me get up to speed, and probably going to be cruising a little slower than normal. Weather is one of the main reasons I'm adjusted my schedule. Let's see, what is the temperature right now? 40 degrees on the dashboard, but it's supposed to be down to about 26 by 6 a.m. where I was located. So part of altering my schedule is just the heater for the APU is not working. I got one behind me, wants to seem to follow me to the promised land. So might as well go on around there, sir. I got all the time in the world. It's supposed to maybe be snowing a little bit up ahead. We'll see how that goes. And I forgot to clean the windshield, dagnabbit. Oh, New Mexico tried to inspect me again yesterday. This is becoming comical. In fact, at this point, literally every time I go through a New Mexico port of entry, they attempt to give me an inspection. Yeah, I've talked them out of it the last 2 times just by saying, "Hey, it's been 3 of these in less than 2 months. What the fuck is this?" And the guy yesterday tried to give me the whole spiel about, well, I just pick a truck out at random, and I'm like thinking to myself, well, clearly it's not random. Like, you can't be random. That's not possible. So now I'm wondering, like, what am I putting out? In a law of attraction sense, I must be putting something out into the ether that's attracting these people to me. And it's not, the truck, all the equipment's in good shape. It's not like I have an appearance, I'm clean cut appearing. It's not like I look like I'm trying to get away with something and thus bringing enforcement to myself. Like, that's not what it is. It's quite strange at this point. Quite strange. And this is really my only time to even go live today. And where I'm parking, which will be actually early in the day, even if I take my time getting there, it's going to be early in the day when I shut down, taking advantage of the less cold part of the day for sleeping. And I don't believe Yurt's going to be on the broadcast. He just finished up his live not too long ago. Sometimes these ideas get stuck in my head, though. Wow, yeah, I'm not used to this level of traffic when I first start my day. It's with it being so much earlier than normal. It's only 10:45 local time. I'm just almost damn near in a traffic jam here. Yeah, how about y'all go around? You ain't figured out I'm slow yet? Might want to go ahead and go around there, Bubba. Yep, trying to catch me riding Yurty. Yeah, I mean, the thing about that is not even as far as the inspections, it's the frequency of inspection. So I've had 4 with this company, but of the 4, I've passed 3 out of 4. But the one I failed, I was placed out of service until the repair was completed. It was a leaking brake chamber, and that was literally all day long, just sitting in the truck at a way station while Love's came out and left and came out and left and came out and left because they never had the right parts. But of course, the Texas state trooper, is like, oh, it won't take long, wanting to, allay my fears. And I'm just thinking to myself, no, it's going to be all fucking day, man. It's going to be an all day affair. So it's not even that it's like, oh, I'm going to get in trouble. It's more of like, if something, God forbid, like something's wrong, like, oh, the trailer inspection's expired or whatever, then that's like all day till you can't leave until the issue's resolved. That's the major problem with the inspection. And it's just nerve wracking. It's like, why am I going through this? But we expect a certain frequency, but I'd had a grand total of 3 before I started with this company. I've had 4 with this company, and 3 have been in New Mexico in less than 2 months. And in fact, my last inspection was March the 6th, I believe. Yeah, March 6th. That's not even 2 weeks ago. But the guy tried to give me an inspection yesterday, and then like less than a week ago, the lady tried to give me an inspection. So like I say, it's effectively every single time I go through a New Mexico port of entry. So it's not even about them trying to catch me. It's about, like, mathematically, this is no longer, it's like the odds of this happening, if it is truly random, it's becoming like I could win the lottery type of odds. So, I do understand statistics well enough. It's like, yeah, this is within the realm of possibility mathematically, but it's becoming very unlikely. And it's like each Powerball number, you know, if you actually look at the Powerball odds, like going from that, the last few numbers, you know, if you've got four of the six numbers or whatever, when you go to the fifth, that's astronomically, you know, less likely. And then going to the seventh, the same thing. That's basically where I'm at. Every single time I pull in, they're more or less proving that it's not random, is effectively what's going on, I would say. No, I'm not feeling better, but I feel well rested. But yeah, I'm in quite a bit of pain. But yeah, it's definitely headed in the right direction. Thanks for asking. Much appreciated. Tinsel TQ. Yeah, a couple more days, I think it'll be where it won't be really, excuse me, won't even be noticeable. What I'm talking about is I bruised my left kidney. I haven't urinated any blood, so I know I'm probably not too bad a shape. Oh yeah, the truck has two heaters that run off. So the truck has a grand total of three heaters. Although, you know, the one in the back may actually be that may only be two heaters. I'm not exactly sure. So the truck has two or maybe three heaters. But we have an auxiliary power unit, which is just basically a small diesel generator. And I think probably it blew a fuse, but I'm just not interested in trying to disassemble it, especially with summer coming. Like probably I could fix it myself if that's all it is a fuse. But yeah, the two main heaters that run off the truck engine, those work great. The thing is, this equipment is all set up nowadays to get maximum fuel economy. So the truck will shuts itself down after it idles for like 5 minutes. The truck turns itself off. So when I'm parked, I'm only able to use the heater that works off of the APU, and that heater has stopped working. Thankfully, the air conditioning still works. And since I live in the truck, what'll happen is if I try to get my shop to fix it, probably they won't be able to fix it. And then they'll try to send me to a dealer, and the dealer's going to want me to move out of the truck and then uh, drop it off at the dealer, which then my company, if there's an extra truck, I would be moving into a new truck, which I don't necessarily want to do. So it's easier for me in the short term to just deal with the cold. Yeah, if that makes sense. It's a path of least resistance to some degree. Yeah, there you go. Well, I've been very fortunate. I've been in almost no winter weather the entire winter. Virtually no winter weather I've experienced. Effectively none. So I got super lucky this summer or winter rather. I've only driven on snow like maybe twice, two or three times total. Good to see you, Jake. But yeah, these APUs are notorious for not working properly. So the truck is in perfect working order. The APU is like dealer installed accessory, you know, like the truck doesn't really come with it. They're very expensive and they almost all of them seem to signal maybe be aware of that. One thing about it, this road is getting so rough out here. That's not going to make for a fun drive. And if I may stop going live every single day, by the way, I'm finally starting to run out of things to say. Believe it or not, as far as conspiracy that so merely all right. I think we're back. Hey, there's two bins. Which one's the real bin? This is the one on the right. Yeah. I had to switch over to the Mint Mobile, which has recently been acquired by T-Mobile, if anybody's noticed. I'm sure that'll go to shit eventually. This is another reason why I went live at the time I did. I'm gonna, once I get off the interstate, assuming effective no connection whatsoever later today. So tailgated at 62 miles an hour. Unknown reason. Oh, it's a shitty straight truck driver. Never mind. It makes total sense. I want to go ahead and pass there, Bubba. Oh, even worse, a hot shotter. They really can't fucking drive. Oh no, a guy with an RV. Okay, the worst of all. Yeah. California. I believe I'll be off work the deliver Monday, I think at 11. And I believe I'm doing a restart. So it should be off. So I'll probably be doing live streams from the old laptop, be able to play some other people's content. So maybe that'll help keep the old show going here, perhaps. Well, they're in love with Tailgate and Benton tonight. This is like the fourth one already. They are in love with Tailgate and Benton. Yeah, I've noticed I get into certain parts of the country and it's just almost everybody that catches up to me tries to just ride right behind me. Very strange. Never understood that. They're interrupting the flow of my broadcast, don't they know? Don't they know what they're doing out here? Meanwhile, the speed limit is 75. How is everybody doing? I'm all right. The kidney's definitely less painful than it has been in the last few days, so that's a good thing. But I don't know if it's the healing process, but it hurts like a motherfucker when I lay down. Like when I first woke up, it's like, good Lord. Maybe that's part of it healing, you know. Sometimes it's that good pain. No freaking bueno. Good to see you, Rob Cleveland. If you're still around, just still checking in with the chat here. What's up, Jessica Jane? Indeed, you were first. Good to see you as well. All right, Rob's still here. Yeah, apologies. I've this kidney's definitely taken a lot out of me. I've noticed. I was just about wore out yesterday by the time I got done for the day, which was comically early for me anyway, especially with the time change. I was done by like 11 a.m. Oh, and this I've got this way station bypass. They call it a free pass. And I finally figured out it hasn't been working because the batteries were dead. In order to change the batteries, it was basically glued to the inside of the windshield. So I had to pry the entire apparatus off of the windshield in order to replace the batteries. And then it's supposed to either give you a green light or a red light. So if it's red, you have to go into the way station. It didn't do anything yesterday. I don't know if that's because it's not on the proper part of the windshield anymore. I'm not sure how that works, but now it's just laying on the dashboard. We'll see if that works. But I think there's another port of entry because where I'm going is up near the border with Colorado. I think I've still got another port of entry to go through. And I'm just assuming they're going to try to give me an inspection. But I've got all of my. Yesterday, the guy, it was almost like he didn't want to believe me when I was telling him how many inspections I got. And he's like, do you still have the sheets or whatever? And I'm like, well, I gave them to the company, but I've got them on my phone. But I wasn't organized. I said, man, I just scanned them in and sent them to the company. Like, I don't have them. But now, so this morning I went ahead or I guess tonight, my morning, your night most likely, I organized the files where I can easily show them. Here's where I was inspected January the 25th. Here's where I was inspected like February the something, whatever that was, 17th, I think. Here's where I was inspected March the 6th. Just crazy, man. I've never seen anything like it. So there has to be something I'm putting out there. Because like this last one, the guy literally just like, I'm on the scale. He walks out of the fucking chicken coop. I'm just in a line of trucks going through there, and I just pick a truck at random. It's like, yeah, I understand that, but if I'm the one who gets picked at random every single time I come through a port of entry, like mathematically, it's like this is a whole lot of rolls of the dice here. I could literally go win the Powerball with these odds, or not literally, but I could. That's just becoming Powerball odds here, sir. If you truly want me to believe it's random, like if I come through here 7 times and you pick me all of the 7 times, I'm the randomly picked one. That is a Powerball. It's a winning Powerball ticket. What's up, Trunk Vortex? Yeah, I feel okay now because I'm rested. But what happened yesterday is I was real tired by the end of the day. So I'm assuming that will also be the case. So ordinarily, if I have signal when I park today, I might have been inclined to do a live stream from my laptop, but probably not today. And these bumps are kind of hurting the old kidneys. My kidneys are taking a beating because of how bumpy the road is. And Mexico's a poor state, so I guess we shouldn't expect much out of their roads. Certainly a slave state, like fallen slave pointed out. Those seem to be particularly on the side of being a slave state. Yeah, I guess they do have good food. Good to see you, B. Smiley. I'm not able to eat it, of course, with my medical conditions, my various illnesses. But yeah, I've had it in the past. Although I did get really sick one time. I was sent to Gallup, New Mexico for work way back in the late 90s, maybe the early 2000s. And for some reason, we decided to try to have barbecue in New Mexico. That was a bad idea. I'm not really sure. I was a coworker. Not really sure whose idea that was. That did not turn out well. But yes, stick to the more authentic dishes of the region, certainly. And I'm still truck driving as much as I whine and cry and try to quit. I think it just costs these companies too much to actually hire a driver. Plus, I don't take any of the benefits, so that saves some money, I'm sure. I guess they'll put up with me. I guess they'll keep putting up with me. I don't know. We'll see. But I noticed Yurt towards the end of his live stream seemed to be getting into some of these concepts of what's wrong with these truthers, more or less. And that's what I was. That's where I was at when I first encountered this so-called truth community. Probably around 3 years ago now. I'm not exactly sure when I started showing up on Chalk Body Outline back in the day. Whenever that was, I guess that would have been early pandemic. So hell yeah, probably right about 3 years ago now. March or April of 2020, most likely. I'm assuming April, May, somewhere in there. Yep, 2020. That's right. Yeah, about 3 years ago now. Now that was, and I really didn't even know anything about this so-called truth community. I knew about, and most likely I'm the one that popularized that, the referring to it as so-called. And I was kind of on some other shit at the time. Like I was particularly clear-headed for whatever reason, kind of on top of my game in a lot of ways when the pandemic hit. Of course, that wrecked me. Yeah, time. I agree. It's certainly accelerated. Seems to have accelerated intensive PQ. Absolutely. Yeah, I don't know when I found him exactly. Probably 2019, 2019, maybe 2018, somewhere in there. I'm bad with remembering when things happen. But that was one of the first things I noticed is because I was familiar with 9/11 truth. You know, that was what I was familiar with. And then I do enjoy conspiracies. But then I had also gone through, I was literally, and I'm not, I keep saying literally, I'm not prone to depression, or at least I haven't been in the past. Or if I was, I've always been the type to just power through it, not even notice. But dude, I was all fucked up for like a couple of years after 08, 09, because I spent about almost an entire year learning all about the financial system from a lay perspective. I'm not an accountant or an economist, but I learned a lot about the financial system, and really got into the Alex Jones, listening to his radio show every day. Again, the info slash disinfo agent, who I believe is under MK Ultra Mind Control, who's Jones himself went on with Joe Rogan and said that he wants, to paraphrase Alex, he basically said that he wants to get off of the 24-hour news cycle. He's not able to, which leads me to believe that it's not his choice. He can't just quit. He seems like the type that he could certainly go do other things if he wanted to. I'm sure he seems pretty capable to me of earning a living, at least. But I got into listening to his show every day, and again, I would research. I would verify, instead of taking Alex's word for it. I would verify whatever he was talking about as much as I was able to. So just realizing just how fucked up the world is and how fucked up our, American society is, really coming to terms with that. I was fucked up over that for a couple of years. Finally was mostly able to make my peace with it. Just eventually, went through my whole living in the streets, got my act together, went back into the workforce right around the time that Trump became president. I'm certainly no fan of politics or politicians, but I don't think that was a coincidence that I finally re-entered the workforce right about the time Trump became the president. I mean, there's something to that timing, certainly. But then with getting involved with Chalk Body Outlines content, and then, being invited onto his channel back then, to various degrees in this Here in Truth community or truther. And I'm like, what? What is this? And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I've been through this long process of understanding just what the hell's going on here for the most part, as much as I was able to, that the nature of the realm, more or less. I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to believe that more or less question everything and everything's a lie. But then the one thing that is what it purports to be is the truth community. And I'm like, well, okay, that's obviously not a thing. How could it be? Like, it's not even possible. So that's where I got into calling it so-called. Like, well, how in an inverted world, how can the truth community be like the one thing that it just is what it says it is, right on it's right there in the title, Thanks for the link there, Jessica Jane. You check him out, Chalk Body Outline. Get Chalked Up, the backup channel. Chalkbodyoutline.com as well. In fact, that's the person that I never, just with my base emotional state being annoyance. I've been on the internet for a long time. I was never a content creator on YouTube until very recently, but so back in the day, I've been, using YouTube since the very early days of YouTube. And the concept of a live stream just annoyed me for some reason. It's like, what the fuck is this? Why would I want to watch a live stream? And so Drew was actually the first person who got me into watching. I started watching some of his replays. And the one that really got my attention was that the crystal skulls and the Memphis Pyramid and the crystal skulls. Part of that was his ability to, with graphic design, his ability to make thumbnails. So just some random bozo such as myself rambling and running their yap I wasn't interested in that, but certainly a certain level of skill involved. And I do get on a good rant from time to time, so I will claim credit for that. So it's not, maybe there's some value to what I'm doing, but ultimately I'm just another bozo rambling on a live stream. Am I not? And I'm not even taking calls the last couple of days. I just don't have the energy for it. Hey, there goes one of my fellow Arkansans. I don't know if you can see their plate necessarily. Yeah, it's just too draining trying to talk to somebody in my weekend state. Something about the kidneys really drains the energy, I've noticed. That's where I was when I first woke up to just how poor my health, and I really was very close. It sounds hyperbolic, but I was close to death. It was not looking good for old Benton. That was less than a year ago now. I'm again not real good with time, but certainly less than a year ago. And that was one of the main things when my kidneys were so fucked up. I was having, very high amounts of fatigue on a daily basis, which I'm certainly not accustomed to. Typically, I'm a pretty high energy person for the most part. Yeah, the flat Earth, like I'm getting to where I don't even really care anymore. It's like Tommy can. It's almost like we've almost come full circle. It's like now that's if you want to be a conspiracy theorist now, it's like just say you believe in globe Earth, because at first flat Earth was so outlandish and treated with such derision and ridicule. It's like now that's what to believe it's a globe. That's what that it's the same thing now, as far as the amount of pushback and jeering and being looked down upon that one will be treated to. I've gotten to where I just don't need to care anymore. It's like I got other things to think about. I just know I have to speak in certain ways, or that immediately the chat will become all about the shape of the earth. Like, and that's something I've noticed with the so-called truthers is, as long as I make sure to throw in a disclaimer, but if I don't, like if I mention the J's or the small hats, or if I mention a concept that might be connected to the J's or the small say the idea without connecting it to the J or the small hats, then I look down at the chat and it's just everybody's talking about, well, that's because of the J's this and the J's that. But if I make sure to put that disclaimer in there, which I think gets back to what I was saying, and I was in Yurt's live chat earlier, and that's what I think ties in with that is the so-called truth community is just as heavily programmed as the rest of the masses. It's sort of a different flavor of mind control as far as I can tell, but definitely just as heavily programmed, but still certainly more able to think independently, I would say, more skeptical in general, less willing to just go with a mainstream narrative, obviously. And then people are starting to notice what I was talking about with Tommy, Illuma Tommy. And again, I don't care that Illuma Tommy subscribes to what I call normie narratives, mainstream narratives, but let's just take him at his word that he has managed to accrue a bunch of fiat. He's doing that in part by going along with the normie narrative. So, and we only really we only really keep scoring money in this country, lest we forget. So, the proof is in the pudding, as it were, at that level. Shout out to the chat. Way more folks here than should be, I would say. I think I'm most comfortable. I certainly feel fine when there's 10 people in the house, but I'd say this is my zone right here, right around 20. I still feel the pressure to perform to some extent, although that's mostly a self-created pressure. Thank you, Jessica Jane. Much appreciated. I guess I'm on the right track. And that's, for me, I won't even say humbling, but it's certainly, I'm grateful. It is, I don't know, I guess I am, I don't even know there's a word for what I'm trying to express. I'm not sure what that word is, but, even back to the days of the Nightmare Dystopia podcast, just the fact that I recognize very quickly, okay, the audience is more intelligent than I am, thank God. The fact that these people will listen to me, but then again, I am the fool, on some level, am I not? Like I am. That is my role here to some extent. I am the fool, right? Like I recognize that. I'm fine with it. I'm okay with it. I can serve the community. Is it Friday night? See, I don't even know what day it is. And like, even if I know it's Friday, like it doesn't even register to me. I mean, it really doesn't. Friday, to me, it's, if I have to be in a major city and it's afternoon and I have to drive, well, the traffic's worse. But beyond that, it doesn't mean anything to me. But I understand, for a lot of people, that's cause for celebration. I get it. I'm sort of the Doug Stanhope school of thought about that. It's, people are, you work 5 days to get 2, and really you don't even get 2. You get 1.5 if you're lucky, or 1 day to yourself. Again, shout out to the reasons why Benton left the workforce in the first place and chose to live in the streets for so many years. That was part of it also, is recognizing, like, look, I am an actual slave, or I was. I'm trying to break myself of saying I am than that other thing. That is that does become an affirmation at a certain point. By the way, I used to do a lot of affirmations back in the day. Yes, I did. There was a guy, can't remember the guy's name. I actually, ex-wife number 2 had some of this guy's books. And fellas, if you can ever find you a new agey hippie type chick, just access to that library alone. Not that I'm espousing new agey ideas, but there's something to some of that, right? I can't remember the author's name, but she had some books of, or maybe one of her friends. Yeah, one of her friends, one of her alcoholic boomer friend Denise had a bunch of books. Yeah, that's what it was. So Benton, of course, if he's hanging out, eventually he's just going to read all the books in the bookshelf long enough. That's more or less what I did, right? Shout out to Yurt, by the way. We are 2P in the pod when it comes to that, the reading of the books. Although not so much anymore. I don't know if Yurt still reads. It doesn't seem like it. Between his family obligations and all the live streaming he's been doing lately. And I see a good mix of names in the live chat. That's good, because I know the last couple of broadcasts I look down and it's like the same name as like the entire live chat is that one person. course, we'll forgive Tommy. His brain works a little more quickly. His neuroplasticity may be on the higher end of the spectrum. So by the time he's pressing enter on the current comment, he's already got another one. Another one's already appeared in his brain somewhere. I'm sure. Oh, he had Saturday Down Under apparently. Yeah, we got to get all these time zones figured out. 3:20 p.m. Eh? Yes, B Smiley. I do in fact have my old Nightmare Dystopias. Actually, I've got the entire website. Not that it was much of a website, but I have the whole website backed up to like a zip file. So at this point, it's really more of a matter of time and energy. I've got the money now. And that's why the website went down in the first place. Was I was using my savings. I was not work. I quit my job and I was drinking every day, staying in a motel and drinking every day, using the money I'd saved from truck driving. So I wasn't out of money yet, but it was like I'm probably not going to spend. And I was out of still going to need to up the higher level web hosting. So it was like probably not going to spend damn near $200 right now on web hosting. So that's how that went. Yep, Jessica Jane on Pacific time. Apparently, I forget where Salt Lake. I'm going to Salt Lake City. I always forget if that's Pacific or Mountain. 13. What the hell happened? We were up to 22. That's funny how that worked. What did I do? Try not to take that personally, though. You never know when somebody else went live. Who knows? Hard to say. I may have become critical of. Sometimes also I go into being critical of certain aspects of the so-called truth community. Maybe that turns some people off. I don't know. Hard to call it. I can't call it. Yeah, it's 420 somewhere. That's right. Boy, I was tempted. I wonder if my company would even notice if because I know some recreational spots. Not that I mean, they're pretty much everywhere, but I know where I could dip into Colorado pretty quick and stock up on Rick Simpson oil, but not technically allowed to carry any of that. Those not technically allowed to have that in the rig, of course, even if I don't consume it. And then not it's not legal to take it across state lines, but maybe I'd be willing to attempt such a thing, possibly. But my research indicates that a drug dog won't necessarily be able to smell concentrates necessarily. Do go through border patrol checkpoints time to time. Oh, mountain time. Okay. Yeah, that was going to be my guess. So yeah, I'm on the time zone I'm going to be on until I go back east. It's funny when this company hired me, it was the recruiter. Of course, not to believe the recruiters if you're a truck driver. So you just assume the recruiter's lying. But I was told I'd be mostly running in the Midwest, which actually was true for a while. But now all I do is go west. Oh well, such is life. My bank account, my bank balance is not well. My prepaid debit card balance is happy about it. Yeah, concentrates. Well, maybe they can. I don't know. Smiley, maybe you're right. Maybe it was just actual like brownies they can't smell. Like pot brownies. I don't know. Hard to say. I know you can make edibles where if you make them properly, you can't. They don't taste anything like cannabis. So I think properly prepared edibles, the dog probably would not be able to smell. But who knows? I don't know. Got another one falling in love with the rear of my trailer. Go your own way, sir. Big wide world out there. Well, yep. Oh yeah. I had a cat when I was with ex-wife number one. I had this. I was laying on my couch, drinking them out of a mug of beer. I had this cat climbed up on me, all actually kitten at the time, climbed up on me, all curious, and eventually stuck its head in the mug of beer and took a drink of beer. Hilariously, didn't come back for a second gulp though. I was like, really? I'm just looking at the cat. I'm like, are you really going to drink some of this beer? What is this? Curiosity killed the cat, as it were. Well, that's a nug, though, see, B. Smiley. I'm talking about the composition of a concentrate. Like, I guess I am more talking about edibles, though, now that I think about it. Yeah, concentrate is really it's just everything but the plant matter, right? So, yeah, you're probably right on the concentrates. I must be thinking of actually, like, properly prepared brownies or properly prepared edibles. So, I yield to your argument there. Well, but that's the thing is you can make edibles that don't have any of the plant matter. I knew a guy that in Oregon that that's what he did. He actually made candy, like he made hard candy. It had absolutely zero taste or plant matter in it. They were strong as fuck. Yeah, you can absolutely make edibles without any plant matter. I watched him do it. I've forgotten his process, but yeah, yeah. There's a lot to the edible marijuana, obviously, edible cannabis. Yeah, we made some brownies. I made a bunch of when I one time somebody gave me like a pound of like shake or like the trim, but with like these little popcorn buds in it. And I think I picked out like most of the little popcorn buds and just gave them to one of my friends. Kept all the shake and made a coconut oil, weed coconut oil butter, weed butter, but used coconut oil. And then I was just eating the shit straight out of the jar. Fuck, it was disgusting though. Tasted horrible. But then eventually got back to Arkansas and made some brownies. Good times. Yeah, if you're just doing like dabs or whatever, yeah, those are. I imagine the dog can smell those. But yeah, plastic. The thing about plastic is obviously not obviously, but B. Smiley probably knows this, but a lot of people don't know this. Is the plastic is porous, so it's like you can pack your smelly cannabis, and you won't be able to smell it outside of the plastic, but eventually the smell will permeate through the pores of the plastic, and eventually over time you will be able to smell it. That's how that works. Yeah, that sounds gross. Yeah, trying to eat, putting the weed right into the cookies. Yeah, that's not the way to go. I guess as long as they were cooked properly, I guess you'd still get high. But yeah, decarboxylation, if I'm saying that right. Decarboxylated. What's that? 264 to Gallup. That'll be about the time we completely lose signal, most likely. Just outside of Gallup, probably. And I do get a kick out of like you're talking about the truth movement, which I don't even think is a thing. Like I've talked about over here, the truth movement, it originates in the belly of the beast, the beast system. And then the movement ends up being a bowel movement as far as that analogy would be concerned, and goes, descends the colon and then gets shat out the rectum of the beast. There's your truth movement. Yeah, well, vacuum seal. We're talking, but the plastic itself has pores. Magic E. The plastic itself is porous. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. Basically, if you, from what I understand, especially spending time in Humboldt, out in Humboldt, where people like myself would show up and people would happily let me fucking front me weed as long as I stayed there and mailed it to somebody back in Arkansas and waited for money to come back. I never wanted to get involved in that, but apparently it's very common to send it through the mail from that part of the country. Typically, they overnight it, send it, overnight, seal it up real well, and then by the time it gets there, it's not quite stinky yet. By the time it gets where it's going. Yeah, I started driving, let's see, yesterday, but I was still on Central Time, I believe, yesterday. I think. Hell, I don't even remember. It's hard to remember sometimes. Where did I start my day yesterday? Somewhere in Texas, I guess. Fuck, I don't even know. No, I started in Dallas yesterday on Central Time, right about pretty close to midnight Central. Yeah. So yeah, it was still yesterday for some people in some time zone, or still today. I don't know. Fuck, I don't even know. See how confusing it gets with the time zone. But yeah, I may very well have started both my shifts on the same, calendar day. That happens sometimes. I know one time, most I've ever driven in one 24-hour period on my actual clock was like, I think it was like almost 800 miles, but it was technically two shifts. So somehow you can actually get more than 11 hours of drive time in a 24-hour period. I'm not exactly sure how that happens. It can be done apparently. Oh yeah, the dog fake alerting is a thing, of course, absolutely. But whatever that is that I put out that's causing these inspectors to want to inspect me, I mean, for all I know, it's just their bosses are telling them to do more inspections, and then maybe they don't like putting people out of service, so maybe they're profiling and they're trying to pick somebody that looks like they'll pass the inspection. I don't know. I certainly come across as like a serious type of person who's, you know, takes care of business, right? So I don't know if that's it, but yeah, for whatever that same thing is, the police have almost never attempted to search me. It almost never happens for me. Effectively zero. So I don't know, man. For some people, it's like every time they get pulled over, the cop wants to search. But then me, I'm just immediately going to be like, no, I'm not going to consent to a search. You know, like I won't even hesitate. I'll just be like, no, man, no way. But I'll say that whether I have something on me or not. Like my behavior will be exactly the same, whether I'm dirty or clean. Like somehow I'm able to do that. That to me, that's a mistake change. You know how I operate based on. You know, that's a bit of a clue to the officer to try to determine if I know I'm riding dirty or not. Then you see some of these cops will plant drugs. So while they're searching, they'll plant the drugs. Like I just don't, you know, there's absolutely no reason to consent to a search. Now I'm the type I typically I want the officers to know I'm not a criminal, so I have no trouble forking over my ID. Of course, driving a truck I don't have a choice, but or I do have a choice. I already made the choice by choosing to operate in commerce, in interstate commerce. See, there we go. Wet and icy roads may exist, Jim. See, we're already hitting the. Supposedly, there was a chance of snow last night. This is one of the disadvantages of driving at night. This would be better to do this in the daytime, but oh well. Oh well. And all the parking's full by midnight. It's not like there's anywhere to park. Are you a serious person, MCQ? Well, we've talked about astrology here and there. I've got all that Virgo in my chart. Makes me come across as very serious. And that's one thing I've noticed about Brian O'Shea is that people think he's not funny. Actually, he is, but you have to be paying attention because he weaves a lot of deadpan humor into what he says, and if you're not paying attention to what he's saying, you can easily miss it. I do that to some extent as well. Some of the stuff I say, I'm telling myself a joke, but not laughing at it. But yeah. Oh man. I guess it's coffee time. Irrigate my gallbladder a little bit. Oh, I think I had a full-on fucking gallbladder attack, like right when I woke up too. That was unpleasant. Wow, really? Virgo, all right, Jessica Jane. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I guess my grandmother's a Virgo. Sun in Virgo, what we mean by that, of course. Yeah, I've got a Virgo and then Mercury and Venus in Virgo. Retrograde Venus in Virgo. But yeah, a lot of Virgo, the old chart. I think old Yurt might be Sun in Virgo, if I recall correctly. Pisces. That's the what the full expression, right? Isn't that the last of the 12? Michael Jordan, Pisces. And a lot of people don't realize when Michael Jordan was the best basketball player in the world in the early 90s. The second best was most likely Charles Barkley, and he was also Pisces, son of Pisces. By the mid, 93, 94, right in that zone. MJ and Chuck, two Pisces going to war with each other. Oh, I don't know anything about the border crossing. Hence, TQ. I don't know. I don't know anything about it. Yeah, I don't ever cross borders in a truck. And I went to Mexico. I actually went to Tijuana. I entered Mexico on foot right before they changed it during the pandemic. They changed it to not right before, but within a couple of years of them, because the U.S. started fucking with the COVID restrictions and everything for the border crossing. So Mexico was like, "Fuck it, you're gonna fuck with us, we're gonna fuck with you." But I went in, I entered Mexico on foot, and just walked right past a federale with a machine gun. There was no checks of any kind. But going back into the U.S., see, I think now I'm not sure about a passport, but since I'm a citizen, LOL. But since I'm a citizen, whatever that means, they they just I had to have I had my birth. I knew, but hypothetically, they're going to let me back into the country eventually. It's just a matter of what are they going to put me through to get back in the country, back into the U.S. But I don't know how. I don't know what the process is now. So couldn't tell you. I know for a time foreigners entering the U.S. had to show proof of it was like either a negative test or a jab. But I really just eventually just because I used to really be involved in that news cycle, and I just eventually tapped out. I don't honestly have no fucking idea what's going on now. Don't really care, honestly. I mean, just I guess it would be interesting to know if somebody just told me, but I'm not. I don't care enough to like actually look into it for myself. And then this is where the attitude of the general person, the general public, is just like, oh, it's easy. It's this thing, but it's like no, it's probably like a flow chart of if you have this status, then you go into this part of the flow chart. Like it's never just people want to oversimplify and be like, oh, it's easy, oh, it's just this thing. It's like, no, I bet you it's way more complicated than that. So I don't fucking know how that works. I think you'd have to just go read the various government websites to figure all that out. But then, like, say, if you just bring it up to somebody, especially if I mention that something might be complicated, oh no, it's easy. It's just this thing. Like, no, it's never just that thing you're saying it is. It's always, sometimes it's that thing, but then it's also like all this, there's these other corollaries that may or may not apply. If one is to read the fine print, not that anybody would ever do that. Well, not by 93, 94. Everyman Dan. Yeah, Hakeem was too old by then. But yeah, I hear you. I was a big. I like Dream. quite a bit. In fact, as a Razorback, I remember I was well aware of Akeem when he was with the Houston Cougars. Yeah, Dream's a little older than Chuck. Although, lest we forget, the Rockets went back to back when Jordan was out of the league, and then that one year he tried to come back. The Rockets won both of those. Lest we forget. But if you look at some of Chuck's playoff performances from around that time, uh, he had some games that I don't think even Hakeem could match. Yeah, I think Chuck had a conference finals game or like a game 6 that closed out a series where he just went fucking completely off. It's like one of the greatest playoff performances ever. Chuck doesn't always get his due because he never won a title, but yeah, there you go, 94, 95. But I don't think it's a coincidence the Jordan never played the Rockets in the final. But I hear you, man. I'm not going to fight you too much on that. Yeah, you're right. I probably was a little off on his age there. So I'll yield to you there on that. It's funny how my memory kind of gets a little my memory gets a little fuzzy looking back on sports. Like I think I know some shit, and then I look back on it. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Actually, I was totally wrong. But he entered the league in '84, lest we forget. He's more than 10 years in by the time we got to the mid '90s. But I hear you. Oh yeah, man. Shit, I wish I could go to Mexico. Go there and fucking stay there. But yeah, that was a great time for the NBA back then, and especially since I didn't know it was fake. Sports were fake, so yeah, it was a great time. The Suns, Rockets, Bulls, a lot of great teams back then. A lot of really good teams. More than just them too. Hell, even Denver with Mutombo and Ellis, and well Jackson too, Chris Jackson. Yeah, the Sonics were good. That's right. Yeah, very true. The Warriors with Weber when Weber first went to the Warriors. The Kings coming off a Run TMC when they still had Run TMC going. Like I say, some of those years I forget exactly what happened what year. But yeah, I'd love to go live half the year in Mexico if I could speak Spanish, but I just don't have the brain for learning a foreign language. Unfortunately, my brain just doesn't work that way as an adult. Not able to do that, sadly. People just like, oh, you could learn it. It's like, no, I'm pretty sure I know how my brain works. Nope. You do occasionally run across somebody who's lived in America for like 20 years and still can't really speak English. That'd be me in Mexico. It'd be like, yeah, I've been here 20 years, but I still really can't speak very much Spanish at all. Yeah, no kidding, man. That's a good point, Smiley, and that's what I said when I was reading about it. Back when, especially when it would get hyped up to a fever pitch in the media about all the immigration and the open borders and all this. I was like, fuck it. If they're going to come here, I'll just go down there. Which, again, if I could actually learn the language, I would. I mean, I really would. But I just don't want to go live in a country and not be able to communicate. Just not into that. Not my thing. So I could just work 6 straight months and then drive in a truck and then go down there for 6 months. No problem. Economically, anyway. Assuming I can get back and forth across the border, that'd be the main issue. And then I don't know if you guys know, but U.S. I keep saying citizens, but now it's like, but yeah, Americans are able to. We get a 6 month visa. I think it's just automatic. I believe. I don't even think you have to apply. I'm not sure how it works, but I think you just show up. You can be there for 6 months. Pretty sure that's how it works, unless that's changed. But then hypothetically, you got to go back. What I understand, in the past, they've been fairly lax on the enforcement, though. This is what I mean. I'm actually. It doesn't even seem possible, but it's like I actually run out of shit to say after a while. Probably going to have to go to every other day on the live streams. It's a little bit different if I'm on my computer and I actually just play somebody else's stream. I can usually kind of riff off of what they're talking about. I think I ran JG off, Jessica. At least for now. Maybe he might come back. Who knows? See, who have I ran off? Jeff Pizer, Austin Murphy, and now JG potentially. But he might come back. It's hard to say with JG. A little bit too much. As much as he likes to laugh off what I'm saying, I think it might be a little too much truth directed at him. And that's another thing, so-called truth community. But it's like, and at a certain point, I started calling it the "you can't handle the truth" community. Especially with my critical nature, I'll just start coming with the critique sometimes. It's like, oh, okay, I thought we were interested in truth. Like, this is all true shit I'm saying. But as we know, many individuals find it difficult to process criticism, and I myself, I don't like it either. But I certainly try my best to listen to it, whether I like it or not. I try to take it in. JG, yeah, he's sensitive. That's for sure. I would agree with that if that's who you mean. Yeah, as a sensitive individual myself, I can certainly recognize that. Yeah. Also, he's not practicing what he preaches. He tries to say that he's not on drugs and alcohol, which I do tend to believe he's not on alcohol, but he actually, if you really listen to what he was saying, he certainly implied at one point that maybe he would be the type to occasionally smoke some drugs, although he wasn't specific with the drug. It would be he implied that it was possible he would be the type to occasionally smoke some drugs. And as much as he wants to talk about going to sleep at night. You could tell there's some nights he's up all night, which is fine. Like, sure, when I was living in the streets, I was up all night at times also. Not regularly, but yeah, there were times when I just stayed up all night. Sure. Because when he was in here the other morning, that's part of what I called him out on. Is like, what are you doing, man? You're up all night here, bro. What's going on? And then I mentioned that he had at least implied that maybe he was the type to smoke some drugs. He didn't. I wasn't able to read all the chat, but I don't think he had anything to say about that. But I don't even care, by the way. Do whatever you want. But to me, it's more of the claiming to live a certain type of life. But I got to the point with, and I'm not saying he's on meth. I don't get meth head vibes off of him at all. But although I will say, I've never done it, and I understand that people don't believe me. And here's why people won't believe me, and I don't expect them to, because in all my years living in the streets, I have never, I repeat, never met another street person who doesn't at least casually use meth. And I mean ever. If I spent enough time around somebody, eventually I would come to understand that they at least use it every once in a while. But another thing about I had actual homeless friends who were meth heads. And what I came to understand is the ones who had turned away from it really had never turned away from it. They were just the ones who had learned how to use it, just more or less keep it in balance, to use it. But, and this is a saying that I'm not a fan of, but they learned how to, do the drug without the drug doing them, right? They were able to strike that balance over time. But then I also met a lot of meth heads who continue to use meth, and they have reached such a delusional state that they actually believe they don't use meth. So when they tell you, "Oh, I don't use meth," they really are not lying in that they really believe that they don't. And I know it sounds insane. How could somebody take a drug while simultaneously believing that they don't take the drug? I don't know, but I'm telling you from firsthand experience, there's absolutely chronic meth users who have convinced themselves that they don't use meth. I'm not kidding. And then, by the way, I've talked about this before. When I was in Eugene, Oregon, probably around, I don't know, 2016-ish. I'm bad with years, but probably around then. That somehow a process had been discovered whereupon bug spray, meaning a raid, could be sprayed through a screen that had been through like an electrified screen. This is the way it was explained to me. And then somehow eventually you could end up with a crystalline substance that people were injecting. I shit you not. Not even kidding. Don't know what that was exactly. But yeah, motherfuckers were shooting out bug spray. Yeah. And this is not, oh, Benton, you're mistaken. Just somebody told you something. It's like, no, I was living amongst these people when they were doing this. Believe me, this is what was happening. Well, or don't believe me. Yes. Like pretty much all acquaintances and homeless friends were more or less all meth users. So at a certain point, I started to wonder, well, what's wrong with me? That I'm here amongst these people, and I'm literally the only one not on the subject. Like, what's wrong with Benton? And I did begin to get my act together not too long after that. Yeah. Well, and I think it probably is rock bottom in some ways. Yeah. Injecting bug spray. Yeah. Which doesn't even sound like it would be possible. And so I think that's because I was like, what are you talking about, bug spray? And then eventually the process was explained to me. And I also heard it. Then I started really being able to listen and said, okay, well, I guess this is a thing. And at one point there was this guy named Pirate. And apparently Pirate, I guess he was a little older than me. And Pirate had been chronically homeless for a long time. And I think he actually was an actual former meth user, believe it or not. But I know at a certain point he had overdosed on LSD real bad. He had taken like some crazy high dose of LSD and had more or less lost his fucking mind for several years. And eventually know, came out of that. And while I don't think he was gay, he had somehow developed some sort of bromance, or he had a heterosexual life partner, was this guy who uh, ended up on the bug spray. And so these two guys would sleep in the same sleeping spot every night, and like they would hang out together a lot. But since Pirate wasn't addicted to drugs anymore, Pirate didn't have to panhandle. But this, forget the guy's name, his heterosexual life partner, who had to panhandle like half the day every day in order to buy stimulants. But at a certain point, the life partner ended up on bug spray. But then like Pirate is like, hey, how the fuck are you telling me you're like, oh, this guy's got the best dope, you know, whoever this dealer was has the best dope. But it's like, how is it's putting you to sleep? Like basically like, dude, you're not even on stimulants anymore. Like this is how fucked up on drugs some of these people are. And I think that's was in part the bug spray. Like, oh yeah, this dealer's got the best shit. And I think some of these drug users, they do kind of fall for the rhetoric of the drug dealer to some extent, which is I find humorous. There is an element of that, I think. But I've never been actually, thank God, on any actual drugs. Well, other than alcohol, the hardest drug of all, lest we forget. And you know, I can always just come on here and do material. I can always just talk about drugs and homelessness. So I like psychedelics, homelessness, and drugs. It's like hard drugs, meth. Like that's my go-to, right? I can always just, you know, that's like my canned material. Yeah, drugs are bad, okay? But yeah, it's certainly a thing, right? Well, and I do want to say, uh, what's up, EBT? You're gonna get fucked off. What does that even mean? But yeah, good to see you, brother. And I will say EBT's a made man, so I said I'm not taking calls, but anytime EBT demands to come on the broadcast, we'll just let him come on the broadcast. Oh yeah, gonna get yeah fucked off. Yeah, off bug spray exactly. Shit is wild, man. But yeah, Rusty. Just for the record, I do want to say I don't personally care what anybody puts in their body. That's their business. But I'm certainly going to talk about it. And I don't mean with you. I don't mean I'm not talking about you. I just mean in general. Like it's like yeah, I don't necessarily care that these people, some of these people are on God knows what, but I'm going to talk about it. And I had a bizarre experience in Seattle, and this is actually this will be an interesting. Let's tell this story. And this was a different version of Benton, if anybody's curious. And I'm a terrible storyteller, so I'll probably talk about this for an hour and a half, never actually tell the entire story, and then you know it is what it is. But so I was in Portland, Oregon, many years ago. I don't know. This would have been again. I'm bad with the years, but I don't know. 2014, 2015 would have been in the summertime. Typically, if I was in the Pacific Northwest, it was what people may not know about the Pacific Northwest, and I'm mainly referring to Seattle and Portland. And I've spent more time in Portland than Seattle, but I've spent a lot of time in Seattle as well. Probably my second favorite city to SF. See you later, Robin. Have a good night. The West is the best after all, but I was in Portland and I said, okay, I want to go up to Seattle, but I knew that the Bolt bus was a thing. Like I could take the fucking Bolt bus or whatever, and I've done that before, but for whatever reason, I wasn't trying to take the Bolt bus. So this also ties into my come to Jesus moment or whatever you want to call that, my religious conversion experience. But yeah, to back up though, July and August. So Seattle and Portland are both known for their for the number of days in the year that it rains, right? because actually Seattle doesn't get that much rainfall if you measure it in inches, but it rains more or less like damn near 300 days out of the year. I think it's like 200, high 200s for a number of days with some precipitation. But July and August, it effectively doesn't rain. And then sometimes you'll get an actual, like I was in Portland one year and there was a local homeless person who grew up in Portland. He said, yeah, it's going to be an Indian summer. It's not going to start raining until like October. And he was right. But I chickened out and left early. But I kept looking at the weather. I said, damn, this guy was right. It's really had damn near 4 months of no rain. Somehow he knew the Indian summer. I said, all right, whatever, man. And that was before I'd really developed my camping skills evolved over time. I had not yet developed my ability to camp in the rain. Eventually, I got to where I actually camped in Eugene, pitched a tent in Eugene, and broke camp every day and pitched my camp every day during the rainy season. Quite a feat. But once it got cold, it was like, okay, I can deal with the rain, but I can't deal with the rain and the cold. Or not at that time anyway. But I come to Jesus. All right, cool. Well, here's what happened to come to Jesus. I was in Portland and I didn't want to take the Bolt bus, so I knew that I could. So I got on my Google Maps. If you've never done this, if you're in a city, you can get on, especially on the West Coast, you can get on your Google Maps. If you choose the just the local transit option, a lot of these cities, their transit systems like all connect with each other. So I was like, well, shit, I can at least get up to I can get to Castle Rock, Washington on just local connecting buses, right? And something about the West Coast has a culture where even if I don't have bus fare, I probably have a pretty decent shot of just talking the bus driver into just letting me ride for free. Although that's not foolproof, it's certainly I've done it before. And so I was like, well, shit, I can at least make it to Castle Rock, and I do like to walk. And this, by the way, this was a skateboard and gigantic backpack combo. So I was skateboarding with a gigantic one of those comically. I had one of the largest internal frame North Face backpacks they've ever been made. The side pockets, the literal hip pockets, would hold an entire 1 liter Nalgene water. Like you could actually put an entire like one of those Coleman fucking propane canisters. That was just the hip pockets. This thing was gigantic. It had like this huge, fully extended and packed fully out. This thing would go over my head. It's huge. Still my favorite pack I've ever had. And this was a different version of Benton, meaning I was pretty much about 180 pounds. About 180, pretty fucking solidly built, had a pretty good muscle mass on me. Still pretty strong from the weightlifting days, a much different. Still had most of my neck. Wasn't pencil neck geek Benton yet. I still was thick neck Benton. Probably got some pictures somewhere. I'll try to dig up at some point. I'm gonna have to go to the. It's gonna require disassembling various broken ThinkPads probably to actually find these image files. I think. So I got up to Castle Rock on the connecting buses and took off walking. And you can actually, and then let me back up. I said, well, probably I'll try to hitchhike once I get to Castle Rock. Well, I don't know if it's the me being a white guy with a backpack and the whole serial killer, the Pacific Northwest being very aware of that I do sort of fit the profile of a potential serial killer, and they had several noted serial killers, including Ted Bundy, were active in the Pacific Northwest, but wasn't nobody giving me a ride. Although I've always been able to get a ride in Oregon for whatever reason. Not always, I shouldn't say, but in Oregon, it's legal to hitchhike from the fucking interstate. I shit you not. And I've, in fact, just walked up onto the 5 and had a gigantic cardboard sign, and I've always got picked up, just holding up the sign on the fucking side of the interstate. Even like in Portland, just get outside of Portland a little bit. Yeah, interstate trucker. Yeah, and I'm not quite able to keep up with the chat right now, so Please forgive me on that account. Actually, I need to. It's almost time to start looking at. I'm within 30 minutes of the fuel stop, so yeah, 37 minutes. T minus 27 minutes till I need to call the company and have them turn on my fuel card. No, 40 minutes. 40 minutes out from the fuel stop. And I guess I would have made it there. I stopped and got 40 gallons of fuel yesterday just in case I weren't to make it. So I quickly found out there's a 0% chance of ever getting picked up hitchhiking in the state of Washington. I could just tell, and I've got a lot of hitchhiking experience. Like, okay, well, this is obviously it's not going to happen for me in Washington. In fact, at one point, I wandered into an IHOP, I think to try to fill up my water bottle because it was quite hot. And in fact, if you've ever spent time in the Pacific Northwest in the summertime, 77 and sunny, it feels hot there. It just does. So even if the temperature indicates it's not hot, it still feels hot for whatever reason. But I think it was actually hot, like probably in the 90s. And then I was actually destitute at the time. Well, somehow I know at a certain point I'd scraped together enough money that I bought. I remember buying like a pre-rolled joint in and this and again I just have to tell the story like as the details come to me. So this is an out of sequence story, but general vicinity of where would that be? Olympia, Washington. I went into which I do believe is north of Castle Rock. I wandered into a dispensary and I had enough money to get a pre-roll. Well, between I'm carrying a gallon water jug. I'm hitting that water jug all day, and then I'm also, I'm in the direct sunlight, and also hitting that fucking pre-rolled joint, dude. It split. I shit you not. It split my lip open to where now it physically looked like I'd been smoking drugs, and like at this point you'll never convince somebody that I wasn't smoking drugs. I was in fact not smoking drugs, other than of course the pre-rolled joint. But look, I looked at myself in the mirror and said, okay, well, obviously anybody that looks at me is just going to assume I'm smoking drugs. Like, obviously, there's no point in even trying to tell somebody I'm not smoking drugs. But I wasn't smoking drugs. I mean, that's just what it was. And believe me, I think those that know me probably understand by now. I would just tell you if I was. But anyway. So I had the gigantic backpack. So I was actually able to skateboard because I had a skateboard also. I was able to skateboard, parts of the journey, but a lot of it was just 2-lane highways where maybe not a lot of room to walk because I wasn't going to walk on the interstate. Oh, wandered into the IHOP. That's right. Sorry, I'm bad storyteller. Apologies for my poor storytelling abilities. And this got stuck up the lady who was filling up my water bottle or whatever, struck up a conversation with her, and she more or less heavily implied that she just assumed I was some kind of serial killer. Sort of appalling. And that's right about the time I realized, okay, well, obviously never going to get picked up hitchhiking. And it's interesting experience. It's almost like they want me to. It's almost like but it's almost like she was sort of a lurid fascination, almost like she wanted me to be that. If that makes sense. Wonder if I should try to switch back over to the Verizon. I'm still on the hotspot for the T-Mobile. Got some retard behind me that can't figure out how to pass me. I guess we'll slow down and give him a hand. So my plan was, I knew worst case scenario was about 100 miles from Castle Rock to Seattle, south side of Seattle. And I like to walk, and I knew I had nothing but time. So it was like, okay, worst case scenario, I'll just walk to Seattle. So I was walking for days, walking for days, walking for days. And I know at one point, I would just sleep wherever, and I think I was just with the weather, I was just sleeping like under the stars, more or less. But at a certain point, I don't know, between the heat and all the walking, somewhere in there is when I had my actual religious conversion experience, which is really difficult to describe. Uh, I tend to work at the level of intuitive perception in a lot of ways. So I had what I describe as a direct perception of Christ consciousness, if you want to call it that. You could call it Jesus, the Holy Spirit. It was a direct, powerful experience, full on. Okay, I've been shown the way, and this is what it's all about from now on, type of thing. Hard to explain, hard to put into words, but that happened during that time, which I think ties back into why I chose to take that route versus just jumping on the Bolt bus. It's like you get down to these ideas of, oh, everything happens for a reason, type of thing. There's certainly something to that, I guess. Let me see what's my exit number. Maybe that'll help me remember what I'm doing here. 196. Check back in with the chat as I weave this weave this rambling yarn. There's some hitchhikers out there. I pick them up every once in a while, not in the truck, but when I had a personal vehicle. But yeah, they've become few and far between over time. If you'll see them every once in a while, but yeah, it's not a common thing. Even when I was doing most of my hitchhiking, now every once in a while I would get to a spot and there would already be some people waiting. You'd actually wait in line to hitch out. That only happened a few times. But I've done quite a bit of it. So, in fact, not that long ago, I've hitchhiked in Arkansas. Not that long ago, actually. So, like 4 different times, I think. So, at some point between the walking and the sun and the heat and the cannabis, although I didn't have it very much, but I was definitely on one. I was on something. And plus, like I like to talk about, I've got the natural high. Like when I'm living that way, my body's really pumping out the feel good chemicals and the testosterone and the dopamine, serotonin. Well, serotonin really. You know. Well, that's the thing about hitchhiking is like that's my hitchhiking style is that I just walk. Like I don't ever just. Some guys will just wait until they get it. Sometimes they'll wait for days to get a ride. Like I won't wait more than about 15 minutes, and then I just start walking. Some of that is just kind of knowing like what areas to try to hitchhike from. Like a big part of hitchhiking is don't get dropped off in a dead area where there's just some areas you're just never going to get picked up from. So there is a skill in knowing like where to get dropped off at. There's a lot to it for sure, but anyway. This is a several day process. Well, eventually I found myself somewhere near a military base. It was like in this little town. And by then, dude, my behavior was just so like, because when I'm just walking all day, I can more or less just, it's like I'm full aggressive, outlandish, not giving a fuck bent. Right. And dude, my behavior, I guess, became so egregious that eventually the cops showed up, and I was just like, I knew I wasn't breaking the law, and I was just like, look, man, like I know how I'm coming across right now. Obviously, the locals don't want nothing to do with it. You know, I think I want to do a Starbucks at a certain point. Just, but again, I'm not breaking the law. I'm not creating a disturbance. But I just, you know, and you get into these conservative areas near a military base, dude, they're just not having it. So I just told the cops, I was like, basically, y'all just need to give me a ride. You just need to give me a ride out of here, man. Like, I was like, I'm going to Seattle. I'm walking to Seattle. But I was like, dude, I'll take a ride. It's like I would have hitchhiked, except nobody will pick me up. So it's like they actually took me to a transit center somewhere, like if you look at Seattle on a map, somewhere on that, like the southernmost point of that, the greater Seattle area. I think somewhere maybe around Federal Way, maybe south of Federal Way, somewhere in there. There's a transit center, and they're like, oh, you know, you can take a bus from here. But I had no money, and by then I wasn't even interested in trying to ride the bus. And so now I'm concrete jungle. It's all sidewalks. So I actually was like, I bet I can put my backpack on top of my skateboard. And then I tied a string because I carry, you know, string or rope. And it's hilariously, by the way, when I was backpacking, at a certain point, you know, I almost always had like rope and zip ties on me. And people would like be like, you've got rope and zip ties? Almost like, again, back to the serial killer vibes. It's like, yeah, man, they're useful items. And like, dude, I need the rope to string up the tarp. It's like, I mean, these are all explainable things, man. You know, like these are useful fucking items here. It's not. I'm not carrying them to like, you know. But it's funny how that's what people think of is like, oh, he must be out here killing folks. You know, it's like, well, I understand that some people think that way. I don't think that way. I'm not thinking about you know, the potential to harm people. Yeah, you know what's funny is part of abs is genetic because, dude, I had very strong abs, especially from my gym days. I had very strong core muscles. Genetically, dude, I never get. You can never see my abs ever. It's funny, just doesn't matter how low my body fat is. I never have abs. Not sure why that is, but some people can get them pretty easy. But yeah, I was even doing stuff like you want to talk about an ab workout? Like I was if I wasn't able to skateboard some of the times, like I would skateboard, like I would ride my skateboard like down a hill, like on a old, like on a highway. I would just take like the wrong lane to the highway, and then if a car came, I would just jump off, you know, let the skateboard go off into the woods or whatever, off into the grass. But then on the uphill sections, I would I would attach my skateboard to my backpack, and then I would just put the backpack. I would hold it over my head and walk up the hill like for a workout. Like, dude, I was telling you, man, I was fucking on one, dude. I was you couldn't tell me nothing, man. I was fucking. It's hard to even describe that. Something about that, you know. It wasn't always the current 140-pound bit. That's for sure. Oh, I never cared about abs anyway. But yeah, never mattered to me. So at a certain, so I started for miles. I was walking in that concrete jungle, just dragging my skateboard on a string behind, and I got to where I could almost like steer it. You know, at first it was just like, well, as long as I'm in a straight line, but then I'd have to keep looking back at it and sort of keeping it on. Eventually, I could just more or less just walk fairly quickly, just pulling this my backpack on the top of my skateboard behind me. It's funny how we can just sort of develop those skills, you know, in real time. Yeah, I guess they do. Well, I do remember being a teenager and some girl commented on my stomach because it was I was in shape and had a flat stomach, but I never had, you know. actual fucking six-pack abs. But yeah, they do. That's for sure. Right about that. Not that I would know from my own life, but certainly from my observation. $39 miles an hour trying to climb this hill. Yeah, actually, I guess I did need that fuel now that I think about it. Lord knows we're using a lot of it trying to get up these hills. And Olympia was a trip. I'd been to Olympia before, but I spent a little bit of time with the commies. It's a bunch of, it's actual, if you just go to Olympia and hang out on the streets of Olympia, it's just literal fucking commie anarchists, which sounds like kind of maybe a misnomer, what, like a jumbo shrimp, whatever the word for that is. But that is an apt description of the. Yeah, 19 viewers. Yeah, 17 silent. Yeah, yeah. A lot of people like to just listen, which is I'm happy. I'm more than happy with. And that was one thing about the podcast was just I had a few people that would email me their feedback and their ideas and such. But for the most part, and that was a way bigger audience, way bigger. And for the most part, it was mainly people that their interaction with the podcast was they listened to it. So, I do seem to attract that on some level, although I'm sure it's not just me. Oh yeah, I'm very literal. That's true. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm a very literal person. Yeah, very literal. Even if I then go more into the figurative, I will generally always go straight to the literal first, typically. Um, so at a certain point, I went. There was like this old, like rundown, like, but like this was on the south side of Seattle, general vicinity of Federal Way. If anybody's familiar with the area, somewhere in there, and just urban concrete jungle, and needed to use the bathroom, and I didn't want to just pee like behind a building or something, and wandered into a like an old indoor shopping center, but it was really like a bazaar, what it was functioning as. And I guess they had a lot of trouble with homeless people in the area, and then that's a kind of a whole nother breed of homeless person out there anyway. These two black guys were like, I guess, worked security there, but they weren't in uniform, and then they just immediately were like ordering me out of the building. But dude, I was so fucking cock diesel, just on one. I was more or less just telling them to go fuck themselves, or like basically like I'm just going to the bathroom, man, and then I'll get out of here or whatever. I'm just trying to more or less brush them off. Eventually, they're right up in my fucking space, and they're all over me, and it's like I'm just more or less like feeling myself, and uh, they eventually, I guess I hadn't bathed in a while. Eventually, they're telling me that I need to take a bath and get some soap and water. By the time I was done with them, I thanked them because I was like, yeah, I probably am. My hygiene probably has kind of fallen because I had been walking in the direct fucking sunlight for like 3 straight days, I'm sure, and I still had long hair back then. By the way, I still had the shoulder length hair, so yeah, I probably was pretty stinky and grimy by then. They didn't let me use the bathroom though. Like, man, I'm just really just trying to go to the bathroom here. They ran me out of there. I don't usually get into the jaw jacking, but we got into a little bit of jaw jacking. They informed me they were from. I was telling them where I'm from. They started telling me they're from Chicago. So, yeah, they do seem like they probably would kick my ass if they, but not without a reason. Tough but fair, right? Tough but fair. Which I get it. I understand that they probably have a lot of local fucking drug addicts trying to come up in there all the time. Oh, I don't know. I don't really want to. I honestly don't want to get into all that, to be honest with you. But I don't even think that's a thing. What you're asking. I don't think that exists. But I do. I have studied. I've studied all of those topics, and that's what I talked about a little bit with Paul and Slave. Not with respect to me personally, but the actual so-called Kinsey scale and all that. If you look into the history of that Kinsey research, the Kinsey Institute, it does seem to be satanic and rooted in some J fucking trickery. But I think there is something to some of that research also. Yeah, it's not. It's just not something I practiced. Well, it's just not something I practiced to a large degree. And then, dude, I'm really am post all of that. Like I'm not involved with anybody. Like I'm not involved with any human being sexually at this time, and haven't been for probably I'd say a good 6 years. Yeah. No, I don't think bisexuality exists culturally. I don't think it's the thing. Now, when I'm talking about the Kinsey scale, I'm talking about sexual attraction. I'm talking about, I think there is a certain level of just intimacy and attraction, same sex attraction. But as far as actually acting on it, I don't think it's a thing. I really don't. It's either a man's either only is with women or he's gay. That's what I think. I don't think there's a. I don't think bi is a thing. Personally, that's a gay dude who's doesn't want to be a gay, doesn't want to be considered a gay dude. That's the way I look at it. Well, it's common because there's a lot of homosexuality in our culture. So when you say bisexuality is common, no, that's homosexuality. Deep South, literally every openly gay man I've ever met that's from the South, they all have kids. Every single one of them. So they all had relationships with women at a certain point. They don't consider themselves bisexual. And if you ask them, they'll say, "Oh, I was always gay." They were just trying to pretend to be something they weren't, to try to fit in with society. So I think that's what bisexuality is, personally. That's just my opinion. But then some people are just like, some people will just fuck anything, right? Like it doesn't matter if it's got a vagina or it doesn't matter what's between the legs. Like, dude, some people will just fuck anything. So it's like at that point, like, do those labels even apply? And I said I'm not trying to get into it. I'll talk about any of it. I'm not that interested in the where we talk about me type of thing. Like it's just I understand that the audience may find some of that interesting. I don't find it interesting. Like that's where we it diverges. Like we that's where we diverge past. Like I'm interested in the topics broadly. I'm just not that interested with respect to me. And I am from an extremely repressive culture, lest we forget. Like I'm never going to be completely comfortable discussing these topics when it comes to myself, right? I don't think I'll ever reach the point of just like, oh, I'm just fully comfortable, you know, even talking about it. And back in the olden days when people really couldn't tell, I was just more or less happy to just fly under the radar. By the way, never got accused of. Nobody ever wondered that about me in my younger days because it just wasn't a thing in Arkansas back then. Like we weren't. It was almost like a don't ask, don't tell type of thing. Like nobody was really curious at all. But every once in a while, somebody was just, I guess maybe they were more feminine. I don't come across as that feminine necessarily, other than just, so I think Southerners in general, to some other cultures, we seem a little feminine anyway. But I don't know. Hard to say. Man, this road's, dude, what the fuck? Barely put one tire over there on the, like onto the white line, and it just completely pulled me onto the shoulder. Man, it's bad driving by these other folks. Witnesses. Poor driving. I don't know what you're doing back there, car, but you're going to have to pass me. You're not going to be able to stay back there. Sorry. I know you want to hang out behind me, but you're not going to be. I'm not going to let you. So get off me. What the fuck is wrong with you? Get off me. It's just gross and creepy. Get off me. Ugh. Yeah, there's no bisexuality in American culture. Doesn't exist. Those are gay dudes. 100%. I don't care what. This thing is a bisexual man in Western culture, in my opinion. Those are gay dudes. So I don't think I think all men are sexually attracted to the female form. Like I firmly believe that. I don't think there's a man on the planet who's not sexually attracted to the female form. I don't care what they say. Now I think there are dudes who just find vagina to be gross, but it is kind of gross. Let's face it. It is on some level. It is a little gross, but I've had a lot of time. I don't want to get graphic, but yeah, I don't find it gross. All right, but yeah. So I'm me myself. I'm strongly attracted to women physically. Physically, meaning if you just basically like a mannequin with the right fucking proportions, you know. See what I'm saying? Like it's a shape more than it is a being. No, I've spent a lot of time with but again, I'm almost 50, so it's like at what point do I get to just tap out of being obsessed with sex? And I do think this is where we get into the chakra, and the I might be running out of hotspot. Let me get back on the Verizon. I think I might be running out of. Hang on, let me call the company real quick. Be right back.
Hey, Saul, it's Jason, 22439. I'm almost stuff. Thanks, Saul. Have a good day. All right, bye-bye. All right. Plug the headset back in. Yeah, the being down in the lower chakra. And I think some people think I'm just making shit up, but like I really am able to circulate my the energy from my lower chakras. I circulate it all throughout the chakra system. I know it sounds ridiculous. That is a thing. Versus when I was younger, I was unbalanced towards those chakras. Very, it was all down there in the lower two chakras. There was no fucking stopping. And I'm older, so I've had. It's just like, how long do I need to be obsessed with my lower chakra? And if you study Eastern religion and Eastern philosophy, they talk about it. Sense enjoyment. This idea of being a person that's involved in just enjoying the pleasures of the five senses. At what point can I just be like, okay, I've been there, done that. Like, why do I need to keep it? But I think most people are so in their lower chakras that they just sort of project that on me. It's like, well, okay, I understand that. You're not you, the listener, but just a hypothetical person. One's mind may be in the gutter, but that is, I need. I'm really not thinking. Around 11 miles. Check. Yeah, the mic is in my lower chakra. Am I coming in? I never really know with this thing about plugging a headset into a phone. You have no idea if it's actually working or not.
I had to unplug it because I can't make phone calls while I'm driving. The truck's too loud to be on speakerphone, so I had to actually plug the mic into my other phone. I've got two phones. Yeah. All I did was unplug it and plug it back in. Yeah. You just never know, man. You just don't know what these phones are doing. It's funny how we've got all this technology, but you plug your headset into a phone, it may not pick up the mic, but it might. You just don't know. Funny how that works. But thanks for letting me know. I know Drew gets sometimes he's accidentally like on his webcam mic, and he's just like later on he's like, "How did y'all not? Why didn't y'all tell me?" It's like some people don't notice or don't care. I guess that the audio is not so great. Mm. All right, I kind of got diverted into sexuality, but see if I can maybe get back to my story. I think that was. Oh, and eventually, I wanted to actually tell a bizarre, possibly a bizarre drug experience I had. Might have become too contemplative though. It's hard for me sometimes on these live streams when I have to necessarily do shit. Sometimes it makes me hard. It's hard to get back in the flow of the live stream sometimes. Is this that same stupid fucking car? God, what is wrong with these people? Fucking hate these bozos. Well, I'm almost to the fuel stop. That'll probably be a good stopping point for now. I'm trying to think if I want to keep the stream going or not. Oh, and the story of the black guys, the black security, which is even that's kind of unusual because there's mostly white folks in Washington State. Although I guess it has diversified. I was looking at the demographics, especially when the Talcott was getting called racist and all that, and apparently it was damn near. It was very like 90% white, but now it's down to like 70 in like 20 years. Something kind of crazy actually how quickly it's been diversified up there in Washington State. But somebody Talcott's age certainly grew up in a culture of mostly white people and very lot of racist attitudes in that part of the country towards the blacks. Even if the people from there don't want to face it, it's a thing. I understand their defensiveness, but it's a thing. I know eventually when I finally got to the actual south side of the Seattle bus system, then I was like, okay, I bet you. And you know what? I might have even tried to ride the bus for free when I got dropped off at that transit center, and they probably just told me no. I bet I did. And then by the time I got to south side of Seattle, I was like, yeah, I bet this guy will let me drive. And it's kind of comical because the bus pulled up, the guy pulled up, and I'm starting to give him my whole spiel about is he, will he? I don't have money. Will you let me ride for free? And he's just like, I guess he was running behind schedule or something. He was like, he's basically like, yeah, man, just get on the fucking bus. Like he was like just real impatient. So I just like quickly jumped on the bus. So he's more or less like, yeah, of course, but get on the fucking bus. But apparently you could just more or less just get on without paying. And they pretty much, I don't think they're even really, I think they can just ask you to pay, but that's about it. They could just be like, hey, more or less like you're expected to pay, but they can't really insist on it apparently. In Seattle, some of those real lefty areas are that way. I know in San Francisco, one of the last time I was in San Francisco, I rode I think it's called the Muni. It's like these it's like a bus, but it's got like electrical cable above, on the top of it. It runs on like a wire, I guess. And dude, those man, I couldn't even go out the back door because if you try to go out the back door, there's like mobs of fucking homeless people or like local black people or just if you're in the depending on what neighborhood you're in, they just literally physically pry open the back doors and just get on the back and don't pay. It's like fuck, and had to go out the front. It's crazy, like gorillas. I mean, it's just nuts, dude. All right, 196. So was that the next exit or the one after? Yeah, Moriarty. That's got to be where he came up with the name Kerouac or Dean Moriarty. If I'm pronouncing that, I don't know if I'm saying that right or not. Moriarty, maybe. Spelled this has got to be where he got that name from. Dean Moriarty. Don't bother with the movie, by the way. Some books, famous books, just it's pointless to even attempt to watch the movie. Angela's Ashes is that way. It's just not. You can't even. It's not even close to the same thing. Might as well have a different title. The movie. So, uh, and again, I'm a little off with some of my time frames, but I had mentioned before that I had gotten to be, and this is where we also get into the concept of gang stalking, spiritual gang stalking, as well as actual just regular gang stalking. And then I had mentioned that I was had a big thread on the Joe Rogan Experience message board back in the day. So I actually met some street people in Seattle who, um, and I think this was it would have had to have been the same trip to Seattle. It would have had to have been because I know I was preaching on Jesus a lot because I just had that experience, and I am an actual preacher. That's like who I am, core of my being. And met some street people, And then at least one of them seemed to know me from the Joe Rogan message board, which actually to me wasn't that unusual. And I had actually, part of the Joe Rogan thing was these people who who Joe Rogan paid to run his message board were from Seattle, and I had actually met them previously. Look at these people. They're speeding up and slowing down and speeding up and slowing down. They're not going to let me fucking pass them. But I got to take the exit. Come on, people. What are you doing? I fucking hate people sometimes. I mean, I really do. They're going 65. They won't let me pass them. How about y'all speed up so I can just get to my exit? Is that okay? You mind? You're not letting me pass you, but somehow you've let me catch up to you. What is this? Of course, they're taking the exit. Well, oh no, yeah, of course they are. Why wouldn't they be? See, this is spiritual gang stalking as far as I'm concerned. These are the same people that were trying to hang all over me before when I was driving. And no matter what I do, I catch it back up to them. And now we're going to the same truck stop. But remember, I only caught up to them because I'm going faster than them, but then they won't let me pass them. How do you get into this place? This motherfucker is jammed. Be lucky to make it from here to the fuel island. Now I wonder if the one pump that's available, is it out of order? These people are leaving. I might just get behind. Yeah, I'll just use that one. Go, people, go. Are you really going to just stop right there? You're in a pickup truck, dude. Just go. Fucking idiots. He was actually going to just stop there like he's a big rig. You fucking bozo. Not a big rig. See, I'm hungry. I want to eat now, but I'm making myself wait a full 3 hours for my digestion. I got like another hour, I think. Let me check. I'm setting my timer. I got 37 more minutes before I can eat. I think I pulled up too far too. Yeah, I sure did. Leave me alone. All right, be right back. Be right back. BRB.
Yeah, pulled up waiting for it. Some of my older trucks, the fuel tanks were in a different location, and sometimes if I'm not paying attention, I'll pull up waiting for it. Temperature. What temperature is? 33 degrees. Haven't hit any snow yet, so that's good. I know Gallup had a chance. I think tonight or last night. I don't know, whatever. Yeah, no kidding. Hell, I'm not even sure I know what I mean necessarily. I mean, I know what I mean, but sometimes it gets a little lost in the translation, or it can. Lost in translation. Yeah, Rusty seems like a late somebody that stays up late. Oh man. Oh God. If I find somewhere to stop, I might take a break here in a little while. There's a Walmart in Gallup, but I think probably going to be all filled up. Probably a bunch of rigs there already. I wouldn't mind hanging out until Walmart open. I need to do some shopping. That's the thing about going to sleep when it's fairly warm. You know, it's like the right temperature when I went to sleep. But once it gets cold in the truck, I typically wake right up. Oh yeah, 80 gallons. I can't be right, can it? Maybe. All right, we back. Where's the headset? It'll be cold tonight, today, whatever you want to call it.
Who are we talking about? Oh, Jim Henson. Oh, Jordan Peterson. Yeah, going to Russia to cure his opiate addiction or whatever. Well, his if you guys know Red Bar, you know Mike David, he did some really funny stuff talking about Jordan Peterson's daughter, man. She's pretty fucking sus as well. I need to stop and oh, I got to take the trash out real quick. Hang on, almost forgot. Empty the trash. Yeah, yeah, clean my truck. That's right. Clean your truck, Bucko. Clean your trucko, Bucko. Yeah, no kidding. Next, I got to find somewhere to stop and pour out the pee jugs, the piss jugs, the piznog. I'm almost at capacity on the piznog. Yeah, one of these days, I need to get around to repositioning the magnet on the. Look at these bozos. Can't figure out how to get. I'm laughing at this four wheeler. They can't figure out how to get out of the truck stop. Just sitting there trying to figure out which way to go. It can be confusing to people on road trips that aren't accustomed to navigating some of these off ramp, you know, these exits and everything, and getting into the truck stop, getting out of the truck stop. Now this RV is behind me again. That same RV that passed me many, many miles ago. Thank you, sir, for not crashing into me. Come on, buddy, you got it. Yeah, you got it. Nobody's getting arrested. Nobody's getting arrested. Nobody's getting prosecuted, and nobody's going to jail. As far as actual politicians, anyway. You've seen some, you know, other people get prosecuted, but yeah, that shit ain't gonna happen. Of course, I'm not good at predictions, so probably it will happen. I don't think it's gonna happen. So what do I know? Oh, you're good. Yeah, I know. Like I say, I tend to take, especially the chat, literally. So don't mind me. I'm just riffing at at some level. Yeah, as you were. What was I talking about? There's that same fucking car, by the way. The gang stalkers. There they are, just right there in front of me. Yeah, guarantee you. Look at them. Look at them. They're just now they're slowing down. They just blasted past me, and now I'm going 60. They're just I'm. See this? Do you see this? Probably can't because the camera's so shitty. Yeah, I'm telling you, man, it's gang stalking. Oh, I don't know if they got a headlight out or not. No idea. I know they're missing a hubcap. Why are you flashing me? Why are you bright lighting me? You're supposed to be going around me, you morons. I ran off the road on purpose to get you bozos to pass me. Yeah, that was. I'm not losing control of the vehicle. I did that on purpose so you morons will quit trying to follow me at 60. People are just fucking just out. They're just out of their mind. There's just no accounting for some of this behavior. Yeah, gang stalking awareness. That's right. Well, here's the thing: is we'll catch back up to them. I promise you. Like we'll see. We have not seen the last of them. We'll catch right back up to them. Yeah, be gone. That's right. Yeah. Oh, the drug part of the story. Yeah. So I met these bozos, these street people, and that was a bizarre thing in and of itself. This was quite a motley collection of characters. It was like I guess like four of them, four different characters. One was like a black guy and like a couple of white dudes. I can't even remember what the fourth one was all about, but for some reason they were like really wanting to smoke weed with me, like get me high on weed. And of course I didn't have any weed, so I was like, sure, yeah. But I could tell something seemed kind of wrong. But maybe again, I'm coming off of all this days of walking, and just who knows what's going on with me, But I don't know if there was something. So I know there was weed in there, but I don't know if maybe there was something else in there also because I had a very strong like a psychedelic effect after that, and eventually just ended up leaving those folks to their own devices. And I almost felt like they were trying to kind of fucking with me, like almost like they had given me some kind of psychedelic drug, like they had dosed me, but then they were like wanting to hang around and observe my behavior and then like kind of fuck with me. So eventually I just left them. And I'm the type, even if I did accidentally get dosed, I'm pretty strong, pretty strong minded. So, I'm not just ever going to completely lose my shit necessarily. But I remember I got this weird like buzzing in my throat chakra. Like I know I keep saying chakras and that probably annoys half of you, but like in my actual throat, like it was like a humming in my throat. Really strange, man. Really strange experience. Hard to explain, but certainly could have been some kind of naturally achieved state, coming off of all the walking in the sunshine and the religious conversion experience, preaching on Jesus. I don't know. I've never done any of these actual drugs, so I wouldn't have any way of knowing what it was. But by the way, they may not have given me anything. It might have just been just I was high on life and the actual weed at that point. Like there's no way to even say for sure. Like these are my perceptions. Yeah, good. Down with the chakras. Yeah. Well, I know I'd had some blockages in the throat chakra area, so maybe that was just like the beginning of my that chakra was opening up because of the preaching and the religious conversion experience. Who knows? So they might not have even dosed me. It might have just been my own. Like I'm just reading their behavior a certain type of way. It's really hard to say, man, because we know that humans can absolutely reach psychedelic states just you know without actual drugs. It could have just been an actual natural high, in combination with the cannabis. It's quite a strange experience, though. Not unpleasant. And then I'm reminded of I knew about this. There's a day room there somewhere in Seattle where you can go and wash your clothes and take a shower and all of that. But it's not, it's you got to sign up. You got to know what time to be there to sign up, and then you got to wait your turn. It's a fucking damn near a whole day affair, right? So while we're just sitting around waiting, and this place even gives you like a jump, like some kind of a jumpsuit if you don't have a. I didn't have a change of clothes even. They gave me like a jumpsuit to change into while I'm waiting for my clothes to get washed. Showered. I was all showered up and everything. And got into it with some black guy there sitting around the day room, and for some reason it always just, I guess probably because of my accent and I'm not from there, and then I'm a white guy. The staff was like threatening to kick me out and like make me take. I'm like, well, dude, I got my clothes are in back there washing. They're talking about having me just take my wet clothes and kicking me out and all this. Meanwhile, it was like I didn't really even start it. It's just black dudes tripping or whatever. So he's like getting real violent with it. He's talking like JG, wanting to talk about. He's talking to me like I'm chalk body outline, and he's JG talking about wanting to do all this violence to me. Which I'm not scared or whatever, but here's the hilarious part of this. This has happened to me more than once, where one of these black bozo street characters is talking a bunch of shit to me, but then the dude's an opiate addict. So at a certain point, like I'm all done and I'm all showered and I got my clean clothes and I'm walking out of the place. Dude's outside on the sidewalk, nodded out on heroin. So I'm just like looking at the guy, like, really? Like, this is a guy who was describing in great detail all the shit he was going to do to me. Meanwhile, if I was actually violent, here he is, just more or less helpless. Like I could just do whatever I wanted to, just right there. I'm just like, really? And he's just completely fucking on the nod. I'm like, dude, what is this? That happened to me one time. I was in line for some kind of, I don't know what I was in line for in Austin. These two black guys were like trying to cut in front of me. And I think I was first in line. So I'm just like, not letting them do it. And then they're talking shit to me. Same thing. They're all talking about kicking my ass. 5 minutes later, heroin, nodded out on heroin or whatever they were doing. I don't know what opiates they were on. I'm like, just look at this. Y'all are lucky I'm not fucking violent and vindictive. Just passed. Don't they know they're going to be passed the fuck out in 5 minutes? Strange. Oh, is EBT back? All right. What's up, EBT? So many strange things happen in them screets. The real screets, Paul, not the YouTube screets. The real screets. Oh, I ran off Snicker Pie too, lest we forget. Maybe Razvan, but I think maybe he just went home to be with his family or something because his dad passed away. I don't think I did anything to Razvan though that I can recall. gigantic pothole in the road, by the way. Thankfully, the steer tire did not explode. It turned off the cruise control, though. Oh, panel channel. God dang, this road is fucked. I'm just reading the chat. Running out of shit to say and reading the chat. Oh, is this the truck lane? Must be. It is kind of crazy how much more depth the truck uses when I'm heavily loaded, especially if I'm climbing hills. Put 8 gallons in earlier. That's a lot. A lot of depth. A lot of piss nog. Pencil TQ making moves. I see you working. Please feel free. And I don't even remember who I was talking to, but I know when this channel first was getting started, I was saying that if people wanted to, they were free to sort of launch whatever they were trying to do from here, and then you know could help give them a little momentum going into their own thing, whatever that may be. See how many more minutes till my meal time. Let's see, 5 minutes. No, there was a stopping place. I bet you now I'm out here with nowhere to stop. Not going to be anywhere to stop. Oh, Albuquerque. Yeah, never mind. We're headed into Albuquerque now. Albuquerque, by the way, it is. I don't know what it'll look like on the camera here, but oh shit, the road's getting wet. God damn it! Now I'm actually gonna have to pay attention to my driving. Windy road coming into Albuquerque. See, Albuquerque's somewhat picaresque or picturesque, however you pronounce that, at nighttime coming into the city, especially from this direction. I guess I'll try to stick it out until then. This road's starting to worry me a little bit. As EBT can tell you, I tend to drive slow as fuck if there's any hint of winter weather on the roads. So far, so good, but I don't know. The one disadvantage of nighttime is hard to tell what the fuck is going on. See, 28 degrees. Yeah. These trucks coming the other way are hauling ass, so that's a bit of an indicator, I suppose. Now that doofus RV's caught up to me, finally. See, like this looks like I'm going uphill visually, but I'm keeping the same speed without touching the fuel. I think I'm actually going downhill. Visually, it looks like I'm going uphill. And it's getting a little slick through here, maybe, potentially. That dude ain't worried about it. He's rolling hard. Come on, Mr. Oh, that's not the RV. That's somebody pulling like a work trailer. See, you don't have to go my speed, sir. You were going that truck speed. Now you're going my speed. Why is that? When you caught up to me, you were going the same speed as that truck up there, but now you've slowed down to my speed. Very strange. Why do people do that? Yeah, death. There you go. Yeah, death. Stay safe. Well, ain't nothing safe about what I'm doing, Tranquil Vortex, but I'm careful. That's for sure. So I appreciate it. Ain't nothing safe about this, and you can't make it safe. I believe it's statistically the most dangerous job that one can do, for the most part, with some exceptions, I'm sure, but as far as a widely available job, anyway. This and probably convenience store clerk, which I've done that job before also quite a bit. Cibola, Cibola National Forest, whatever that is, historic 66. Ah, yes. Timer is up indeed. This truck wasn't up my ass. I could have pulled over there onto the shoulder in that wide spot. Super trucker was riding my ass for some reason. So I'm going slow. Oh shit, I had my brights on. Didn't even know it. Sorry about that, Bubba. This looks kind of muddy. Fuck around and get stuck over here. I think we're all right. Can't really tell. I think we are though. I don't see any body that's got stuck or dug in. Mealtime. Oh, I forgot to run the heater full blast to warm the cab up. Like it. Oh well, it'll just be cold. All right. Oh, almost 3 hours. All right, that's enough out of me. Thanks for watching. Bye.